Peace, everyone. I'm back with another episode on what is in the books of God, which happens to be the truth. And most people have no clue. So, today I will speak about this life of ours that we live, and in actuality, is our second life. Many people have ideas about reincarnation, the Hindus, the Buddhists, and all this stuff they spew out, half truths. And these Christians and Muslims and so-called Muslims and the Jews have no idea about this. They have the actual books which are pretty clear, and the Quran is absolutely clear. I 100% believe we are in our second life and our second creation as per the Quran. And you can infer that from the Bible and the Torah as well, since there was an event that happened in the garden where Adam took off the tree and his spouse, and then they fell to earth. And there is a clear separation between the two creations. The first one was from sulfur. In the Quran, the word is teen. Today, it apparently means tin, which is garbage. That word means sulfur. And the other creation, which is down here where we are today, is from dust or turab, or you can call it earth. The dust on the earth. We are created from there. We are created from the earth. And one other thing that is of absolute importance is that in the hereafter, there will be no death. So once we die here, we will be given life, whether in the fire or in the garden or paradise or heaven, whatever you want to call it. There will be no death. So the death will be here. There, the ones in the hellfire will be continually dying but not dying. Death will be coming to them continually, but they will not die. And that is clear in the book and in the Torah and the Bible as well. There will be no death. They will be in continuous torture, absolute and continuous torture. So today I'm going to go through the verses in the Quran where we can try and figure out. I've already figured out. You can check it for yourself, and we shall see why I say that it is the second life. So the first verse is in chapter 2. We've read this a couple of times before, I think. Verse number 28, it says, "How can you reject with God, and you are dead, but give you life? Then he will give you death. Then he will give you life. Then to him you will return." So now, if we think this is our life currently, and we're going to be given life hereafter, this matches quite easily. We have been given life, we will die here, and then he will give us life again, and to him we will return after that, back to the garden if we're pious, we're believers, and to the hellfire if we're not. So this matches perfectly with the two lives. But the only question here is, you were dead. If you were dead, then the argument is, shouldn't have we been alive before we're dead? If we're nothing, right? You can argue that, yeah, nothing means you're dead. So, this has two ways to go. So dead means you were nothing, and then you were given life, then you're going to be given death, then you will be given life, and then to him you will return. So, if you argue that dead means nothing, then fine. It doesn't mean this is you were given death to be dead. You were just a dead thing. So both things are applicable here. But if you argue, as I argue, on the side of that we were given death to be dead. If I'm dead, I have to have been given death. So to be given death or to be made dead, I have to have been alive before that. So there's a missing segment here. We were alive, then we were given death, we died and we were dead, then we were given life. Then we will be given death, then we will be given life, and back to God. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3 lives and 2 deaths here. There'll be no more lives after this. Yeah, this is 1, 2, 3, and that's it. 2 deaths, and there will be no death after this. So this matches perfectly with what I'm saying, but it has to be with this argument that if you were dead, you have to have been alive to be dead. And the other side of the equation is that you're nothing, so you're dead. So both of the arguments match here. That 2 lives and then one death, and then you go to God. But we'll go forward in the Quran and see how this cannot match up. Let's go to chapter 7, verse 11. And here it says, "And already we created you, then we designed you. Then we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam." So now, if we were already created and designed, and then Adam, the angel was told to prostrate to Adam, then how are we now being born out of our mother's wombs, most of us? What's going on here? This doesn't add up at all. Yeah? So we were already created, we were all designed, and this is the word is all of you, not just Adam. This is not being spoken to Adam. We created you is all of us. This word doesn't apply to one, two. It applies to basically all of us. Yeah. So this is a clear dichotomy in what we've been told, that this is our first creation, that we were born here, and that the story of Adam and all was just a metaphor, it's a bunch of BS. Yeah, I mean, it's absolute lies. So here, this is a clear indication that we were already been created before this. So if that prostration to Adam happened before this life, obviously it didn't happen here. He fell from the garden, has already been discussed, to this earth, and we're going to live in this earth for a while. Then this is totally in contradiction to what we believe today on the earth in general. Yeah. So let's look at another place in chapter 7. So when God said, "Get down, some of you, to others' enemies, and to you in the earth a place and sustenance to a while," this is when Adam asked for forgiveness, Adam and his spouse, when they took from the tree. So he said, "Get down, to some of you, to others' enemies, and to you in the earth a place and sustenance to a while. In her you will live, and in her you will die, and from her you will be taken out." So this is this life here we're living, the death we will get here, and we will be taken out, the hereafter, the resurrection. So this is clear. So this is this life, death, life. Okay, so two lives, one death is written here, and then there has to be a life before this. If we're going to live, get down from here, I mean, we didn't just come down altogether. We know we're being created here from our parents. Yeah, so this is absolute. There is a life before, no doubt. Before this life already. Let's go to the next place. It's chapter 20, verse 55. Let's see what this says. "From her we create you, and in her we will return you, and from her we will take you out at another." So again, this life, this we will put back into this earth. Nobody's going anywhere. We're all going to die here, and from her we will take you out at another. That's the resurrection. So this life, death, life. That's fine. There's nothing untoward, and this adds up to those who say this is the only life, but we've already seen evidence that this is not our first life. We've already been created before this. So the next is in chapter 22, verse number 5. So here, mankind is being addressed. "O you, the mankind, if you be in doubt from the bringing out, the resurrection, but surely we create you from dust." So this is the creation on the earth. "Then from dot, then from clot, then from leech, created and other than created." So this is the whole sequence of how we're created in the womb. "And then we're taken out, babies, then to your reaching your strength. And from you one, he taken away, the death." So it's created from dust, then dot. So who was created from dust at the beginning? It was Adam, yeah. And then we're all created from the dot in the womb of our mothers. So this is basically the first, like, you created from dust here. The word is turab in Arabic. If whoever knows this word here, it's turab. Then from dot, and the rest is like, you can read it. It's like basically explaining how we are created in the wombs of our mothers. And then chapter 22, verse 66. "And he, the one who gives you life, then he will give you death, then he will give you life. Surely the man to be rejected." And also, so I mean, here, this is obviously, I'm talking about this life. Gives us life here, then he will give us death here, then he will give us life. Surely the man is rejected. Now, if I say this is for what has already happened, we can read this as, and he the one who gave you life, then he gave you death, then he gives you life, or gave you life here as well. So it's all happened. You're alive. So he gave you death, he gave you life, he gave you death, then he gave you life here. So both those arguments fit in this. So you can't say, oh, this means one life. You can put it in both, because the Arabic written, there is no past, present, future. You have to figure it out. When you read the Arabic in the Quran, you cannot figure out whether it's past, present, future, unless you read it in context and you have the fundamental understanding of what's going on, which I do apparently by my own words. So now in 23, and already we created the man from chain from sulfur. Then we make him a dot in a place established. Then we create the dot clot, but we create the clot leech, but we create the leech bones, but we wrap the bones meat. Then we create him creation other. But blessed God, better of the creators. Then surely you after that to be dying. Then surely you, day of the standing, you will be brought out. So this is our creation in this life from dot, created, death, life. And already we created the man from chain from sulfur. So this is the word teen here, not Torah. There's a difference between teen and Torah. Everybody will argue, oh, it's the same word. No, it isn't. This word is teen. And those who know classical Arabic, the ancient Arabic, who are not converted to today's garbage Arabic that is spoken, which is nothing like the Quran, this means sulfur. So we were created from sulfur. So now we have a creation from teen and a creation from Torah. So there are two different creations. And I've already explained enough evidence that there have been a life before this one. So, that's a mute point as far as I'm concerned. Now let's go to chapter 30, verse 40. God, the one who created you, then sustained you, then he gave you death, then he gave you life. Are from your partners those? They do from that to you from a thing? Glory him and high over what they partner. So now, God created you, us, and sustained you. Then he gave you death, then he gave you life. Now again, I've put in it as a past tense here. I can give it in the present tense, like happened. He creates you, then he sustains you, then he will give you death. So this can't be gave you death if you're going to looking at future, because I'm alive. If you're alive, you're looking at this. Then he will give you life. So this fits both equations. This will fit both this life and the last life and the next life. Like, this is the first life, sustenance, and the next life, or the first creation and death and this life. So you can write it in any way and it fits both, which is kind of magical, because that's how God has written it. So those who understand will see, okay, this applies for both, can be said for both. So God, the one who created you, then sustained you, then he gave you death, then he gave you life. So now we're alive again. First creation, sustenance, then he gave us death, then he gave us life. Or you can say he creates you, then sustains you, then he will give you death, then he will give you life. Fits both. There's no problem here as far as I'm concerned. Chapter 32 now, verse number 6. The knower of that knower of the unseen, and the witness, the mighty, the merciful, the one who makes good everything its creation, and initiated creation of the man from sulfur. So the word bada is initiate. That's our first, that's how he initiated us. There will be never a statement he initiated the creation of man from turab or dust. That's another creation. So the word again is teen here, which is sulfur. We were created from sulfur. Then makes his lineage from a chain from fluid lowly, from the sperm. So now he's missed out that after that he gave us death, then he gave us life from dust, Adam and his spouse, and then all of us from both of them and all our parents. Then shapes him and blows into him from his spirit, and makes to you the hearing and the sights and the intellect. Little what you thank. Who can say they thank too much what God has given them? So let's go to the next place, 40, chapter 40, 10 and 12. Surely those who reject, they will be called. So now, those who reject, to be hatred of God greater from your hatred of your souls. Behold, you were called to the faith, but you rejected. So when will this be said? We'll have a discussion on this in a little bit. They will say, Our Lord, you gave us death twice, and you gave us life twice, but we accept with our crimes. But is to exit from path. Now they're dead, and they've just been given death, and they're saying, why are they saying two deaths? We'll discuss this in a bit. That to you with surety it, when called God one of him, you rejected. And if it partnered with him, you believed. But the command to God the high, the great. So now that this is when they're going to die. Now the argument here for those who believe there is only this life and then the next life is that two deaths and two lives, and this is clear. You can ask anyone here, you gave us death twice, gave us life twice. Okay, two times here. Each one will say that. So if you argue that this is the life, the only way it will fit is if this is the life, then we're given death, then we're given life. It has to be the life, death after that life, but there's no death after that life in the Quran. So if you say, oh, the rejectors are going to have death come to them, you can argue that, but it's not going to fit. It just doesn't add up. There's not going to be any death, at that time. There will be death coming to you, but you will not die. So you can argue this. I mean, there is a avenue to argue that, yeah, it's our life, and then our death, then those who will be in the hellfire will have life, and then they will be given death. But when are they saying this? This is at the time when they're dying, these people. Yeah. That's when they will know that they have rejected, and they will be told to be hatred of God greater from your hatred of your soul. Behold, you were called to the faith, but you rejected. They will be told this. They will immediately say, they will know, because we will all know when we die, the reality. They will say, Our Lord, you gave us death twice, and you gave us life twice, but we accept with our crimes. But is to exit from path. So now they haven't been given the third life yet. So twice life, let's explain this clearly. The only way it fits is that you were given life once when we were created from sulfur, then we were given death, that's one and one, then we are given life here from dust and from sperm, and then we will be given death, and then you will see, is there exit from this path? Because you'll know you're going to be going to hell when you die, when the angel takes your soul. So this is the soul speaking. The souls will speak this to their Lord. Is there exit from this path? No, there isn't. You when God was said one, you rejected. When you partnered with him, you believed. So all the people who will partner with God or reject with God when he's called one, they will be sent to the hellfire. So here, the only argument people have is that they're saying it when they die again after their current life, death, then the second life given, and then the death. No. This is not what's happening here. And if you read the Quran in its context, in the contextual way it's written, there's no way you can fit this. So this is the main place where it's clear that this is when we die here, and those who reject and partner with God and reject the hereafter, they will be called this, that you hated your, God's hatred of you was greater than your hatred of your souls, because you discard your souls. You don't believe you have souls. You think it's just a construct. You just have mental consciousness. This brain is nothing. The soul and the heart, which is in your chest, that is everything. The rest of the body is just freaking mechanical machine, biomechanical engineering by God, which you cannot replicate. You've tried all your lives, you will continue trying, and you're not going to be able to replicate it. So keep at it. It's not going to work. You cannot make life. God creates life. You just replicate it poorly. That's all. So there's another place in chapter 40, verse 67, where it says, He the one who created you from dust. Now it's Torab, then from dot, then from clot. Then he takes you out babies, then to you reaching your strength, then to you becoming old. And from you one he takes away from before, and to you reaching a term fixed. And maybe you understand. So this is this life, and we were created initially from dust. Adam and his spouse were created from dust, and we are all created from dot in the wombs of our mothers, then from clot. Then he takes us out babies, then we get old, then we get strength, and then we become old, and some are taken from before becoming old. Yeah, we die early. Lucky ones die early, yeah. Okay, 45, verse 26. God, He gave you life, then He will give you death, then He will gather you to day of the standing, no doubt in it. But surely most of the mankind, not they know. So He gave you death, then He will give you life, then He will gather you. So this is obviously this creation. He gave you life here, He will give you death, because we're talking about then He will gather you day of the standing. That's the day we will all be resurrected and gathered to God for final judgment, and hell or the garden. Two options in the hereafter, guys. And of course, this whole conversation only applies to people who have faith in God and that there is another life coming. Otherwise, what I'm saying is of absolutely no concern to anyone, has no meaning actually to anyone. So let's look at another place, chapter 56, 60 and 62. We measure between you the death, and not we with forestalling. Over that we change your examples, and we create you in what not you know. So we're going to be created again in what we don't know, because we don't know how we're going to be created in the next creation, clearly. And already you know the creation the first, but why don't you remember? We've been taunted here. You already know you were created before, but we don't. We forget. We don't remember, because we are too entrenched in the material aspects of scientific knowledge that we know, we can see, that we can manipulate. If we can't do it, then it can't happen. If we can't explain it, it's impossible. This is the lives we live. So here's clearly telling that, your death's going to come, and we will create you in what you don't know. And you already knew the creation the first, but why don't you remember? Why don't you remember is the question. Chapter 71, verse 17 and 18. And God grows you from the earth growing. Then He will return you in her, and He will take you out, taking out. And God makes to you the earth expansive. So this is this life, obviously. We're grown from the earth, the dust of the earth fundamentally. And we will be returned into her. So this idea that we're going to go and plant ourselves on Mars or any other so-called quote-unquote planet is just hogwash, since I believe absolutely this book to be the truth, and nothing that I see and all the deception that has been shown on TV screens for the last 50 to 80 years, showing us space and moon and Saturn and Jupiter and all this garbage, it doesn't exist. They haven't left the earth, guys. We have not left the earth. You cannot leave the earth. It is absolutely closed off. There are barriers and so-called force fields or a dome or a firmament, whatever you want to call it, that cannot be penetrated by our pea shooters. Look at these rockets they throw up. If you ever see a rocket going up, it goes up and it turns sideways and then it comes back down. And they tell you it's going over the curve. It's a joke. They're lying. It's just dropping into the ocean or wherever they wanted to drop. Anyway, that's another subject. So this is fundamentally it. So if you look at these verses and you can figure out that it's only this life, yeah, I mean, you could argue that. But if you look at the whole Quran, which is telling you about the other life before this that happened to us, that was there from the beginning, and we did not remember it because we love the life of this world, and that this is our only creation and there's nothing else after that. I mean, that's the only way you're going to prove to yourself that there's nothing happening. We never were created. This is just all an accident. And there's one other place where God took our promise, and behold, took your Lord from sons of Adam, from their backs, their progeny, and made them witness over their souls. Am not I with your lordship? They said, but surely we witness that you be saying day of the standing, surely we were over this oblivious. Yes, we will say that as well. We have witnessed over ourselves that God is our Lord before this. So how did that happen? Oh, this is just the soul was woken up. No, they've already told you, and the book has already told you that we were all created there. And then Adam and his spouse screwed up in the garden where Satan made them slip, promising them angelhood and perpetual life, a kingdom that will never perish. And he was sincere to them and promised that he was sincere to them, which obviously he was not. He pretended to be sincere to them, that bugger Iblis, Satan. You want to call him whatever you want. He's a demon. He's from the demon kind. And this God took from our backs, you know. I mean, if you think hard enough and you believe hard enough, like I do, I totally understand I took this. I mean, those remnants of those memories are there if you seek them. And the book shows you all that stuff that happened. You know, we have died already, all of us. Now, to wrap it all up, it is fundamentally our second creation and our second life. And the sulfur creation was the first life. And we were given death. In this life, we're given life created, and then we're given death. And then we will be given life, and there will be no death after that. So there's a third life we're going to live in the hereafter. Now, God can make me die and live in this creation 100 times, 1,000 times. He's given death to people in this creation and then brought them out alive. So that's an exception. You have to understand there are exceptions to all rules. Like all of us are progeny of Adam, and we have been created from a man and a woman, except for Adam, his spouse, and Jesus, who was created from Mary, no father. So he came from the womb of a mother, but had no father. And Adam and his spouse came from no wombs. They were created from dust by God here on the earth. The rest of us are their progeny. Now, this is obviously a subject that has been argued, and people are saying there's no proof that Jesus didn't have a father. Yeah, there's no proof except the Quran and the Bible. That's the proof I need. I don't need your mouth to tell me what the truth is. The book is telling me the truth absolutely. So God gave death to a man for 100 years, it's written in the Quran. He gave death to the sons of Israel, which went to the meeting with God with Moses. He gave him death so they could look at him, and then he brought them out alive because they asked to look at God. The only way you can look at God is if you die. You can't just look at God from these eyes that we have in this life. So that is an exception, and it's part of how God works. I mean, Jesus brings back the dead in this life, obviously. The hereafter, God will bring us all alive, including Jesus, who will die here. He has to come back and die. All of us have to die. So if God picks me up today without giving me death, he has to bring me back to give me death. Every soul will die in this life. And then the aspect of those who are killed in the path of God, fighting in the path of God, they're alive in the unseen. So they die here, but they're alive. Don't call them dead. They're living, sustained by God in the unseen, however he wants to sustain them. But they're alive. They're not dead like most others. Yeah. And then there are other Satans who die in the hereafter, and they are unseen, alive, quote unquote, and calling all you to the fire. And the highest of them these days are Satan and the pharaohs that died, the Egyptian pharaohs, Pharaoh himself and his their leaders calling to the fire. And if you look at all the symbolism on the earth, it connects back to the pyramids in Egypt, and all the magic that was there is being it's resurrected now. It's fully in place. We're all being bombarded with the magical spells that they're putting on everybody through all this technology. And they say it's technology, but it's using God knows what kind of magic, but they are putting spells on most of us. And it's certainly connected back to the Egyptians, yeah, the Egyptian pharaohs, and all this on the earth. If you look at the symbolism and all, it points to them, yeah, today, that they're back in charge by usurping your souls. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about this. We are certainly in the second life, as far as I believe. If you can not see it, it's not my problem. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about today. Till next time, peace.